Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, we're still in the garage. I know I'm starting to get quite a few comments saying we want more on the water content. Like, why aren't you showing us, fish catches on the things that you're talking about? And I feel your pain. I want to be out there too. I want to go fishing. And I know I got a boat right here, fully rigged. But this boat right here, the 2023 model 921 Elite Phoenix, I've got it for sale right now, and I've cleaned it up real nice, so I really don't want to do that again, go through that process, because it's so cold, and most days I can't even get my water on, and if I go ahead and wash this thing, it's just going to freeze over. So anyways, I haven't been on the water, so you guys are just going to have to bear with me. But that does not take away the fact that I'm not on the water telling you all this stuff. Does not take away from the fact that this is some real good, solid information that is based on years of experience, okay? And so today what I wanted to talk about, I really wanted to hone in on 3 baits that I want you guys to try during the wintertime if you're around some type of reservoir or lake that has a lot of rock. It's, rocky banks, rock transitions, and things like that, because those sort of lakes that we find here in Tennessee all over the place, Alabama, really all that kind of midsection of the country, if you're around and all the way to the West Coast, honestly, if you're around like a highland reservoir or something like that, where grass isn't like super prevalent, but rock is, these are 3 hard baits, 3 crankbaits that I think are going to be very productive for you, as they have been with me. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to run you through my 3 favorite wintertime and pre-spawn lipped crankbaits. We're not going to add any lipless crankbaits to this list, not because lipless crankbaits aren't absolute fire this time of year, but just because I wanted to hone in on these 3 different models that I use personally. Now, again, I don't have any, I don't have any connection with these brands that I'm talking about. These are just crankbaits that I have the utmost confidence in. But I do, encourage you to go out there, experiment with different crankbaits, and find the ones that you have a lot of confidence in. But if you're looking to purchase any of the crankbaits that I've got in this video today that I'm going to show you, we've got the Tackle Warehouse links in the description below. And also in the description below, we're going to start on videos like this. We're going to start actually doing some exclusive, kind of like blogging in the description below, where I kind of dive into a little bit more detail. A lot of times I get done with a video and I'm like, gosh, I wish I had mentioned that. But I can kind of make up for that, missing something or omitting something in a video by typing about, talking about it in the description. So you'll find some exclusive write-ups that you'll only find in the description below, as well as those links. So no more talking, let's get to it. All right, so I want to start with a shallow water bait. So 3 to kind of 5 foot depth range. A lot of people think during the wintertime, and even during the pre-spawn too, that you need to focus your efforts deeper. But really, there's a lot of scenarios during the wintertime and the coldest parts of the year where you do want to fish that kind of 3 to 5 foot range. A couple, just right off the top of my head, one instance is, during the wintertime, this is kind of the wet season, get a lot of rain, there's a lot of runoff. And so a lot of creeks and, upper reaches of lakes get a little bit dirtier sometimes. I'm not talking about like chocolate milk. You want to stay away from that level of dirty or stain. But I'm talking about, maybe you have a couple days of rain, you get a little bit of runoff that dirties up that water. Bass love to get in that stuff. They love to get in that dirtier water and ambush prey. Really focus your efforts around, those little drains and things like rock transitions. Even if it's like just a straight 45-degree bank or something like that, if you have a rock transition on it in a good creek or pocket, that could be a really good area, or fishing riprap or something like that. And also when it's calm and sunny, I just did a video talking about how calm, sunny days during the wintertime will pull fish shallow a lot, especially if you have Florida strain bass in that fishery. But anyways, whenever I get those kind of situations, I get stained water, maybe it's a little bit sunnier, so I feel like the fish are gravitating shallower. That's when I like to throw this crankbait. Okay, this right here is a Jackal Bling 55. Now there's a lot of different flat-sided crankbaits I haven't tried, and there's a lot of flat-sided crankbaits that I feel are just as good fish catchers, but there's not a lot of flat-sided crankbaits that have the right action, the right buoyancy, the right deflective capabilities, are as durable, and also, you know, are very castable. You know, a lot of the flat-sided crankbaits that are really good on the market are made of wood, and they're just not as easy to cast. They're a little bit lighter. And this right here is a pretty small bait, and it's actually a plastic bait. It's got a little bit of a rattle chamber in there, which is another good point. But it also has a good weight transfer system, so if I'm trying to cast it long distances, I can. So it's a much more efficient crankbait in my mind, and it has all those other things that I like in a flat-sided crankbait. Now there's some other ones that I'm starting to really like the Fritz side is a good flat-sided crankbait. I feel like I catch a lot of fish on that, and so that's like quickly catching up. And these Bling 55s are actually kind of hard to find other than Tackle Warehouse. But yeah, anyways, the Bling 55 is a really, really good crankbait to reach for during, you know, those time periods where you think maybe they're in that 3 to 5 foot range. Really good, just cover in water, cast and, you know, crank and or, you know, cast and burn, just burn in water, burn and bank. All right, so kind of going down in the water column a little bit, the second crankbait is potentially the best cold water lipped crankbait I've ever fished. It really is spectacular, and it's one that a lot of people would agree with me on this, and that is the DT6 from Rapala. All right, so this crankbait right here, medium diving crankbait, runs, as it says, about, you know, 6 feet. You can get it down to like 8 foot if you really downsize your line. But overall, man, this crankbait is an absolute killer. You know, even in clear water, the DT6 is just so solid. You know, it's got a nice tight wobble to it. The buoyancy is such, being is that it is a wood crankbait, you'd think that it's very buoyant. But I have, given there are some DT6s that I have in my box that float faster than others, and some that are honestly almost perfectly, neutrally buoyant, so they suspend. And that's one of the things I like about the DT6 is the fact that it does not float very fast as a whole. You know, again, there's some that do, but and I think that's really good when you're cranking it and you pause it for it to have a little bit of buoyancy, but not like, you know, raising very quickly. I really like a crankbait that doesn't like float too fast in most situations. In fact, the next crankbait kind of breaks that rule a little bit. But overall, the DT6 is one that I'm definitely going to be fishing around any type of rock bank that I can possibly find. I really like it for 45-degree type transition banks. And when I say transition banks, I'm talking about banks that are kind of like in between the back of a pocket, okay, like where water's flushing into a system or a creek or something, and the first point, okay? So the first like secondary point or whatever point that, is closer to the main creek or the main lake or something like that. Between that and the back of the pocket, that's kind of a transition bank. Look for the steeper bank back there and try to find those areas where you've got like some type of rock transition, and maybe just like a vein of like shale that you find. But this is a really good crankbait for that, especially if the fish are in that 6 to 8 foot zone. man, it's just solid. And they have a lot of really great colors. And I'm actually including all of my favorite colors in the write-up below in the description. So if you're looking, if you're buying any of these, you know exactly which colors I like to use. But I'll generally fish this just like I would any of my smaller finesse style crankbaits, usually on like a 7.3 medium action rod. All this is in the description below. And usually it's like 10 or 12 pound test. Fluorocarbon is kind of the norm. 10 pound is like perfect for this bait. But the DT6 is a must have this time of year. The third and final one that I want to show you here, I'm not saying that these are the only crankbaits that I use, but these cover a lot of my bases. This one is kind of a new take. When I say new, I mean in the last 10 years. It's kind of a newer take on an old classic. The original Wigglewort, especially one of the original ones, like this one right here, isn't necessarily the right color, and I definitely have not changed out the hooks, which is something you definitely want to do. All right, there's two of these together. We're just going to roll with that. These are original pre-Rapala Wiggleworts. And these crankbaits they murder cold water fish, especially in the pre-spawn. In wintertime and pre-spawn, it's great. But once those fish start, thinking about, staging in those pre-spawn areas, a traditional Wigglewort is a great bait. And it's because the deflective capabilities where it deflects off of rocks, and it has just mad hunting action. It's just all over the place, and it really does trigger a lot of strikes. I will say it has a little bit more action than you generally want in a cold water crankbait, but the other qualities of and it also is more buoyant too, but the other qualities of it really make up for that added action. In fact, the added action gets a lot of strikes during the winter time. So it's kind of a crankbait that goes against the grain on, compared to some of the other crankbaits that we like to throw, flat side crankbaits, more tight action crankbaits, things like that. But the Wigglewort's not what I want to show you, because I don't really like the newer Wiggleworts all that much, and I don't like throwing my original Wiggleworts all that much unless I'm like fishing a tournament on, a White River lake where they're super popular, like Beaver Lake or Table Rock or something like that. But even then, I feel like I found a better option that is readily available. You can get them in any tackle shops for a reasonable price. They're not, you're not spending $75 on eBay for an original pre-Rapala Wigglewort. But this right here is the Spro Rock Crawler. All right, the Spro Rock Crawler is a crankbait that is definitely a take on the original Wigglewort, but honestly, I think it's an even better crankbait. Just need to get that tag in. It was driving me crazy. But I think it's even better crankbait for several reasons. Number one, it has that same hunting and deflecting action that you see with the Wiggleworts that make them really effective. It's durable, like I just showed you, dropping it on the ground. Again, you can find them at a lot of different tackle shops. They cast really good. They've got incredible color schemes, and just overall, you've got a lot of different models within the rock crawler lineup that can fit a lot of different situations. So they took a lot of what they did with this bait from the Wigglewort, but I think that they improved upon it. And so over time, I have come to have more confidence in this bait than the original Wigglewort or the ones that you find today. So that may be a controversial take on this, because a lot of people just love those original Wiggleworts, but man, there is nothing wrong. And in fact, I don't feel like there's anything better than the Rock Crawler from Spro. And the great thing about this bait, I originally was a little bit skeptical of fishing the rock crawler in clear water when I first started fishing this category of crankbait. But honestly, it's one of the best clear water crankbaits. And the reason for that is because of that hunting action. You know, hunting action isn't as important in dirty water. In clear water, the fish are very visual feeders. And to have that bait just popping all over the place as it deflects off a cover really does trigger those strikes. So like I mentioned South Holston at the beginning of the video, one of my favorite bites I've ever been on with a crankbait was on South Holston during a tournament where I was catching smallmouth and largemouth on these rock crawlers, and they were just absolutely crushing the baits. You know, and we're talking about, you know, mid 40s to 50-degree water, you know, very low water temps, and they were just absolutely obliterating this, and it was super clear. So anyways, I just wanted to share with you guys my 3 favorite crankbaits for this time of year. Again, I'm not telling you gotta just use these, because these are the absolute best. They're the ones that through all the years of experimenting with different baits, the ones that I trust the most and I just have a lot of confidence in, but everybody's gonna be a little bit different. So get out there, get creative, experiment, find your own arsenal of crankbaits that you like to throw, but don't miss the crankbait bite during the winter time and the pre-spawn. So from late December all the way through late February, you better have some of these in your hand. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or you have a bait that I need to try for this time of year, a crankbait specifically, drop that in the comment section below. I'm going to see you out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.